Okay.
Okay, guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about a lot of the basics of the stock market. And for those of you who are watching this later, know that there's a lot of information that goes over the basics that I've already recorded that you can access. But I'm going to run through it. And so let's talk about a few things. So stocks are, TJ, it's a measure of value. It's a security. We'll assign a price, obviously, to it. If this is IBM stock, we might say the stock is worth $100 a share. And the way we get that value of this particular stock is through all of its financials. You know, how much earnings do they have? How are their earnings growing year over year, quarter over quarter? How do they value uh, stocks that are in their industry? So say IBM is certainly it's a tech company, not as much as they used to be, but in the tech space, they may value these companies at a certain price points. They may think they're worth a little more. So all of their financial numbers, they may have a little bit more leeway, I'll say, because they're tech companies. Banks are a little bit more stodgy, a little bit slower movers. They're more predictable, right? Because people just deposit their money. They really don't give the consumer any money in their savings. And it's slower. Technology stuff is obviously faster. Something that's growing like an Amazon you work with, they have typically high growth. They're in a number of different businesses, so they're valued differently. They have a little bit more flexibility for what they're doing. So anyway, so you have stocks that trade on exchanges. The exchanges would be like the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange. So you have this place, this system where they have thousands upon thousands of stocks that trade on these giant exchanges, and everything is all technology now, where back in the day, you may remember this, they may be like, hey, I've got 400,000 shares, and they had these daggone tickets in their hand. You see the old school thing, and they're yelling, they're pointing and all this other crazy mess. But now, since computers were here, they were doing a bunch of things with computers. And now we're at a point where people don't even call their broker. It's just, I just go online, I enter my order, and they make the trade. And if I need something from my broker, I'll call my broker, or I'll call a broker from the company, because you probably don't even have one like assigned to you. And so online, all of they're doing, they've got a market maker. This is the market maker person standing here. They're just simply the system is marrying who wants to buy with who wants to sell, and they make a market. They're called market makers. They're making the market between buyers and sellers. And then the system matches them up and money changes hands. People never ever, TJ, they never get the physical security. If I have 100 shares of IBM, they don't mail me the securities. It's held at this place called the DTC, and it's really like a ledger, like an accounting thing. It just within the system. No one ever says, "Hey, I want you to send me my 100 shares of IBM." Back in the day, they might, but no one does that. Hardly, probably 99, like zero people probably do that. And so there's an exchange, and then there's a lot of different ways that stocks and that value is exchanged. You can either do it with electronically traded funds, or index funds that follow, say, like the Dow Jones, which is 30 stocks, or they follow a particular specific average, like maybe or a sector, that maybe this index fund is following the technology, say it's the top 10 technology companies, and they're called index funds. It is very little they have to do. It just kind of mirrors what these 10 stocks are doing. So you have index funds. And then you have mutual funds. Mutual funds, and certainly we all know the term mutual funds. is people mutually have a goal and they pool their monies together. Not that they talk to each other, but they pool, the money comes into the mutual fund manager, and he or she has this goal, whether it's high growth or a balanced fund, a mix between growth and something that's a little bit more safe. So whatever the goal is of the mutual fund, they spread that risk out amongst a number of stocks. So in this mutual fund, you might have IBM, Tesla, Apple, Google, Boeing, You may have 100 names in this one mutual fund, and he or she is managing those 100 names, and all these people in their different 401ks at work in different places. They're saying, you might go to work at Amazon and you say, oh, well, I like that technology fund that Bob Smith runs. It has a good 5-year average return of, making stuff up, 22%. And they invest in technology related stuff because you believe that's the way of the future with electric vehicles and all the rest of that stuff. And you kind of like what you saw there. And so you send your money in, they draft it out of your account through your job, and the money goes over to buy shares and fractional shares of the mutual fund's price. Is that all this making sense? So your money goes over, and you dollar cost average, TJ. Every 30th of the month, you send money over from your paycheck through your 401k to the mutual fund. And if the price of that mutual fund at the end of, say, tomorrow was $19.20, but the end of December it was $27.20, you're doing dollar cost averaging. You're just kind of averaging in there, and you hope over time that the value of those shares go up. So sometimes when they're going down, you buy more. Sometimes when they're going up, you buy less. But every end of the month, they take money out of your paycheck to go to your 401k. And then they say, hey, TJ, thanks for sending us money over here. We're going to give you a match up to 5%. And then they dump some money in there too. Got all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you have hedge funds, TJ. Hedge funds, they have a bit more flexibility in how they run their money. It's similar to a mutual fund, but they do it a little bit differently, where they try to get the investor a higher return, but of course they charge them a higher fee as well. But a hedge fund, usually like David Tepper.
I was going to ask you about him. Yeah, I was about to ask you. I was just about to ask you that. Like, yeah, David Tepper.
You're with me still. Good. David Tepper, huge hedge, one of the best in the business. That's where he made all of his money. Took a bunch of money in, he made a bunch of money for people, and then a bunch more people kept sending him money. And his assets under management, you'll see a thing that says AUM, assets under management. I'm sure it grew and grew and grew and grew, billions and billions and billions of dollars. And he just has done well for people. And then he made so much money. He's like, oh yeah, I can buy the Panthers. I can do this. I can do that. So hedge funds, those are kind of the main things. There's a bunch of other stuff, TJ, like Forex, futures, crypto, options trading. There's a lot of stuff you can get into. But stocks are a very good place to start. Certainly, I would encourage you to do mutual funds at work, because they're professional money management, and it's safer and it's boring, and it is what it is, but you could still build some things over time. But if you're trying to say, hey, I'm going to try to, pick up the pace a little bit, then I would encourage you to do individual stocks, learn how to buy them right, and learn how to sell them right. And that is exactly why you are here. So, was there anything about that you did not understand?
So far everything's good.
Good. So then what happens, TJ, is people open a brokerage account. It's like a bank account, but it's called a brokerage account. And you can open a brokerage account usually at your own bank. A lot of banks have a brokerage department. And so with a brokerage account, it allows you to trade stocks. You can either have a an IRA within your brokerage account, which would be tax sheltered, or you can also have a taxable account. You can have a business account, maybe you have a corporation or an LLC, lots of different things you can do within your brokerage account. And so I don't know what the minimums are to open one. Might only be like $100 or something, you know, it's probably not a whole lot of nothing. But it is important for you to get some sort of money in there, whether it's $1,000 or something. So we have something to start with. So, you know, we can move the ball forward as you're learning. We're not in a big rush or anything, because it's important for you to kind of get all of the stuff down that I'm telling you. And you're like, yep, I understand it all. And then as we get the account open and we fund it, then we probably want to start doing some things like, let me share my screen. Going into the education area, which will also be helpful when you're bored, you know, to pull up some things that will show you a number of videos to piggyback on what I am teaching you. You know, trading how-tos, et cetera, pattern strong. There's tons and tons and tons of information here until you're blue in the face. And what I'd like to do myself is just go through all of it, because I'm sure there's going to be something I don't know that's going to, you know, help me become a better trader. So, so then we would, you know, as we learn some of the basics, and we'll do a couple lessons tonight, depending on what time you got to leave here. We eventually will get into paper trading. So you're getting your feet wet without risking a penny. And then, you know, when you kind of get confident with paper trading, then at some point you're gonna be like, hey, let's start to get some money going. And then with that, you and I will talk, say we're talking, you know, tonight on a Wednesday, and I might say, okay, TJ, here's what I would look to do. And while we're on the phone, while we're on training, you literally can put the orders in. And that way you're setting yourself up for tomorrow, in case you're in the bed sleeping at 8 o'clock or whatever you get off, you know, and you've got open orders out there. And if something executes, we hope to be able to execute it and buy those shares at a good price. So I'll be helping you along the way to tell you, like, do what you want. Obviously, it's your own money, but here's what I would do, and here's why. And the more we interact and the more you see it, the more confidence you'll have in what I'm telling you and what we're doing. So let's start with, where do we find stocks? Let's do that. Let's take a look at some sites for a second. I don't think we didn't do this yet, right?
No.
Yeah, because we were just talking the other day. So we're gonna start with Yahoo. Take a look at that. And let me get back to my share screen. So in your notes or whatever, hold on, am I recording this yet?
I think you are, yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's right. So you go back and look at it. So in your notes, there'll be a number of places where you can look to find stocks. And you're not going to do a lot of it yet, because this is all new for you, but I want to show you what you can do. There are watch lists you can make with Yahoo. And all of this stuff you're going to do really on Thinkorswim or whatever brokerage account you use. But some of these tools may look and feel a little bit more pleasing to your site, where you kind of like the way it looks. And so you can put your portfolio on here. You can create watch list. You can find out market news, a whole lot of things. But if you're looking for, you know, stocks that may be trending, you just click on this area and it'll show you stocks that are trending. If you click on, you know, a particular stock that you're interested in, there's lots of information here. You know, company insights, you know, the chart. If I want to make this bigger, we can really take a look at how the stock has been trading. Clearly, when we look at this stock, we can see it's been in a downtrend, right? For a while since, and the years were down here. So 2020, this thing ran up and it ran hard. This is an EV stock, electric vehicle stock. Since that point, it has been in a hard downtrend all the way back down, which is a little crazy watching that rise and fall. If there's any sort of message board on here where people are having conversations about the stock, they may be sharing some things that are pertinent, but you see nothing's really going on here. This is November 2022. It's a long time ago. So, I don't know that I'd really be looking there too much for comments. Statistics, we'll dive into all of this. Here's where we find some of the financial details about the company. I don't take too deep of a dive, TJ, into some of these numbers. What I'm really looking for is, these guys, are they profitable? I can see they're losing money. They're losing a lot of money. They're not they're negative 106%. Return on assets, they're not making money. Return on equity, they're not making money. But they do have revenues, almost $1 billion in revenues that come in. What's the quarterly revenue growth year over year? They're only growing by 5%, quarter over quarter, year over year. It's really not growing a whole lot. And when you look at this information, you can just look at it, and it doesn't, you can never have been exposed to this, but clearly what the number 5 looks like. You're like, 5%, that's not a lot, right? And this is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. These guys are losing some serious money. And that's why their stock went from whatever it was, 60, all the way down to wherever it is now, like 2. And so I'll look at some of these things, and we won't take a dive into them. I just want to tell you where we can find this information. One of the other things I like to look at is how much cash do they have? They have almost $600 million in cash, but how much debt do they have? Almost got $1 billion in debt. So if the numbers were really out of whack, it would make me think that they may have to try to raise some money. One of the other things that is here under historical data, it will show you what the volume's like every day. So here's January 31st. Tomorrow's February 1st. Okay, it's the last day of the month. I thought it was the 30th. January 31st. And I can see that volume really picked up here, at least over the last few days, 128 million versus previous few days. And it usually doesn't trade it in the hundreds of millions. So there's probably news today. And if I go back and look at summary, I bet you there's news. Survey says, yeah, why Plug Power jumped again today. Has a new hydrogen plant in operation, blah, 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 blah. So, so there's information there. Another place we can go is Bar Chart. Bar Chart is a place that has a wealth of information to help you with discovering stocks and learning more about trading and some things about trading. You kind of put it all together. And Bar Chart is really good for finding a lot of names. If you go to stocks, it gives you all kinds of categories. Show me the top 100 stocks. There they are, based on their algorithm. Show me stocks that have a big percentage change. And so if I'm looking at advances, stocks that are going up versus stocks that are going down, declines. And if I'm only looking at advances, it'll show me the stocks that were up a bunch today. Like this stock was up 62%. This stock was up 60, right? It's a good return on your money today, right? So what I do, TJ, is I like to write names down. So I might take out a notebook and be like GHSI. And what I'm looking for some volume. I don't want to be writing a name down if it only has 40,000 shares traded. That's not a whole lot. It's got to at least have like 500,000 or above for me. Doesn't mean it won't move without that, because the share structure may be different. And don't worry, I'll get into why that's important, share structure. But I just like to see some volume. And so I might write some names down so I can take a look at them later to see if there's an entry point for me. So I'm sure at some point tonight, I'll probably go back through bar chart and take a look at some names so I can take a look at some names for tomorrow. So it'll show you pre-market trading, post-market trading. If I want to see maybe what's going on after hours today, you can see last updated today at 16:19, so about 5 minutes ago. And I can see if anything is happening. This is probably, yep, earnings. Earnings were released. I guess that was yesterday. But I want to see if maybe there's a train wreck. This is for most actives. Let me see if there's any gains after hours. So like this stock, NXT, is up 22%, but I don't know how much it's up after hours. Well, I guess it's got to be 22% because this is post-market gainers. So I may write some of these names down so I can get an idea. Do I want to try to enter them, some of them, any of them before 8 o'clock? Kind of get out in front of the rest of the people before tomorrow. Because some people, they don't look at after hours trading. So I may write some of these names down and take a peek at what may be going on again for tomorrow. And the volume here, remember, this is after hours, so volume thins out. TJ, you know, volume is not great like it is during regular hours. Again, regular hours are from 9:30 to 4. Pre-market, before the market opens, is from 7 a.m. to 9:30. And after hours is from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So, you know, write a few names down while I'm here. Boom, wrote a few names down, take a peek at some things. So there's a lot of information here, tons of information, like, you know, from sectors to, you know, that are doing well, to stocks that have a whole lot of volume out of the blue, which it can be a good tip off to some things. Like, look here, the volume percentage change from what it normally trades is up like 2,000% of what it normally trades. So there's a whole lot of volume where it normally doesn't trade anywhere near this amount. So you can kind of look at some of these volume advances, 6 times the volume of what it normally trades. And then you write some of those names down and maybe check out the news and start to figure out, hey, what's going on with some of this stuff. So what I would tell you, TJ, like anything else, brother, the money is in the homework. If you just take, it doesn't have to be a lot of homework. Maybe it's an hour out of your day. And you start to learn, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. You start to get into things because it's going to take you some time to get into a flow, into a rhythm. This is giving yourself some time to learn. But this, again, this can go super fast, as fast as you consume information, or it can kind of go very measured, and we'll eat the elephant one giant bite at a time every week. So a lot of information, TJ, a lot of information on bar chart, and it will also help you with resistance and support areas. So if I clicked on the stock like I clicked on this one, it even gives you a rating, you know, strong buy. Strong buy. And if I wanted more information about the stock, it'll give me a snapshot. It'll give me the indicators. It'll give me the whole breakdown. It'll tell me even where support and resistance is based on the last share closing, the last price. So, and we'll get into support and resistance here in a second. So it tells you a lot. So this, rewatching this video and pausing it, and then jumping into bar chart and pausing it and jumping into Yahoo, or just pausing, it'll help you. It'll help you. And I promise you, I know some of this stuff will be Greek, but brother, after about 60 days, you're like, this is no longer Greek to me at all. Like you just because you're just learning a new skill set. Your mind will you'll just be keep chewing. And you'll be like, oh, okay, I see what this is. I see what we're doing. I see what we're doing. A lot of information, TJ, on Thinkorswim. You know, I like Thinkorswim because it's a wealth of information. So if you're looking to join getting a brokerage account, you might look to get a TD Ameritrade account, which is now Charles Schwab. But they'll still have a TD Ameritrade platform, but Charles Schwab owns it now. You know, you get your news, time and sales, like, you know, it'll tell me what the price was of a particular stock at a particular time. So we're looking at Tesla, you know, 1828 or 628. Someone bought it at $188.48, and they bought 4 shares of it. So that's about $800 somebody spent. You'll get your charts. You can look at the charts and stuff on different time frames. You can look at it in different ways. If you don't like candlestick charting, you can go to a different chart type. You know, maybe you want line charting or bar charting. You know, there's a number of different ways to look at it, but I want to teach you candlestick charting because candlesticks are probably the best way to go because it tells you a lot, each candle. Like if I hover over this candle, just so you know, right up here will tell you the date, the open, where it opened at, the high, the low, and the close. So if I hover over this candle, it opened at 202, which is this corner right over here. Let me make this bigger. This corner right over here opened at 202. The low for the day was 199.37. The high for the day was 276.99, and the close for the day was 261.77. So the open, the low, the high, the close. So looking at this candle, it tells you that, hey, we opened way down here at 202, but we closed way up here at 260. That's a nice healthy gain from where we opened. 202 to 260 is a $60 move on $200. That's like 30% on your money on that particular day. So there's a lot of information looking at stocks at different time frames, and I'll go over all that with you and what all that would mean for you. Dissecting some of the news, you know, we don't have to be an expert, you and I, on the news, but if I hover over it, you know, it says Musk may lose $56 billion, blah, blah, blah. You know, what is the news? You know, compensation, you know, we just try to figure out what's going on with the company. The main thing, you know, with trading is fundamental analysis, which is your numbers, and technical analysis, which is your charts. Fundamental analysis is like your news and stuff as well. And again, technical analysis is all of your charting, but doing it in a way that you can think through and arrive at a good price that you would buy it at. And we'll use Tesla as an example. If we're looking at Tesla, we can see, if we use the top part of these wicks, that the stock has been in a downtrend, right? Getting lower, lower, and lower. I can see that we're looking at a monthly chart right here. This is monthly, weekly, daily, hourly. I can see that for 4 months, this thing's been in a bit of a channel. The low was down here, right? Hit it about 3 times, and the high was roughly right around here. So for 4 months, this thing has just been in this channel. It hadn't gone anywhere, right? Low of whatever, 158 or so, the high of roughly 205. And so this right here, TJ, is called support. When something hits something a lot, it's support, right? When something can't get through something, it's resistance. It can't get through this area. Hit it again, can't get through it. Couldn't get up by it, can't get through it. Came up close to it, can't get through it, right? So resistance. when people look at something, if you or I were looking at, say, a football game, and it was, I don't know, the Seattle Seahawks were playing in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and they had Marshawn Lynch. What was it, on the half-yard line, 1st and goal?
Yeah.
Just run the ball 4 times, man. He's gonna get a half a yard at some point. They win this game. So Seahawks, 4 downs. They run the ball. They can't get it. They got stopped near the goal line, short. They do it again. They got stopped. They can't get through it. They do it again. Maybe on his 4th down, game's almost over. Maybe we shouldn't run the ball because you got stopped 3 times in a row. Maybe you should fake it, RPO, quarterback, roll out, do something. But if you think of it like football, this is like the goal line stance. They cannot get through it until they break through it. And Marshawn Lynch breaks through it. This is called a breakout. Like he breaks through what he couldn't do before, what the team couldn't do before. So when a stock breaks out, it tends to be a very positive thing. And when it broke out here, you see that it ran up. And then the next month it ran a little bit more. And then it started to consolidate and sell off for a bit. And so here's the rule. This is a rule to remember. You can put a little star by it. For one, this is support and this is resistance. But here's what happens. What was resistance, once it gets broken, it now becomes support. And guess where the stock found support? Right here, right? It didn't go through it. Hit it again, went through it a little bit, but we're still okay. Hit it again, still not going through it. Then, we're kind of going, really starting to go through it here. We're closing down back into the channel, back into this range. Remember, it was in this range here. We broke through it. What was resistance now becomes support. Hit it. Now it's support. Hit it, support. Hit it, support. Now we're going through it. So we've really kind of broken through support now. So this stock is probably going to go lower. And it may retest this area down in here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So brother, the only thing we're doing is looking at a picture, right? So, and it works. We're looking at a picture. So support, resistance, breakouts, we're going to get into all of that. We're just not going to take a deep dive into any of it right this second. So what we do, we draw trend lines to help us figure out what's going on with the stock. We look at a stock in different time frames, because if you're more of a guy who's like a long-term investor, well, the bigger time frame probably would appeal to you. You know, the bigger time frame, month after month, what is going on with the stock? This is what's going on with it. And when it broke through support, you're like, maybe if it spins on down a little bit, I like Tesla long term, I might buy some more. Then you buy some more. So long term. Weekly, shorter time frame, obviously. You know, all of this are factors of 5. There are 4.33 weeks in a month, so 4 to 5, right? So here's the next time frame I want to look at, the factor of 5, 4 and 5. Then the factor of a week of 5 is daily. There are 5 days in a week, factor of 5. And then hourly, obviously there are 24 hours in a day, but there are only about 8 hours in the market, with the market being open. So I want to look at the hourly. And then as I kind of look at this big picture of what's going on with this particular stock, I'll drill down into the smaller time frames when necessary, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever, so I can find my entry points. So what this looks like, big picture, stock was in a channel, right? In this range for 4 months, it broke through it. What was resistance becomes support, hit it, went through it. So I'm like, monthly, broke support, might kind of come lower. Then I come look at the weekly, and I remember, I'll make this multiple 3-year weekly. I can see here on a bigger time frame, we're going back to 2021, 2022, 2023, and now we're getting to 2024. The stock was in this downtrend. Then it broke through it right in here at about 188. Guess what it's doing again? The stupid thing's in another downtrend, right? So what was resistance becomes what? Support. Right? But we really don't, this, if it spun on down to this downtrend line, it'd have to, if we made this line longer over the weeks, because we're looking at a weekly chart, if it spun on down here, we'd probably be like a screaming buy, like, yeah, this probably be support down in here. So right now it's just kind of making its way down. We put in some lows, like, let me make this bigger. We put in like a low here and we bounced here. So we kind of had this area in here where it was holding this support area, bounced. And then we were like, oh, we're going to bounce again? No, we're not. We're going through it. So if I'm looking at trading things as it looks like, on a weekly basis, what was support now becomes resistance. So as we go through this, now it's probably going to try to hit its head up in here, because this line, this is weeks. This is a whole lot of weeks where we were okay, but we were slightly edging down. And then eventually it went through it. I'll make this bigger. So what typically will happen is when it tries to come back up, TJ, it'll hit its head and it may then roll over. But if it doesn't hit its head and it finds the way to break through, well, here's the next resistance area, 236. So here's, you got to decide on, okay, where does it look good possibly to buy it? So now,
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So each candle represents a week?
These do right here. This is the month. This is the week.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and then here's the day, because here's a little D for day. So, the daily, we'll make this all bigger. Let me pull this up. So now I'm only looking at the daily and the I'll look at the hourly. So the daily, I can see we were in this downtrend, just like the weekly, because this is the weekly line, but it almost goes perfectly with the daily line as well. And then we had this support area in here and in here, and then we went through it. We actually I'll make this bigger. We gapped down. See this gap? It fell down, right in here. We gapped down. When something, see this gap right here, this is a gap up and a gap up right there. There's no candle right there. So it just means like where it closed on this day at 205.66. You see that right here? Closed at 205.66. The next day, it opened higher at 212.97. You see that right there at the open. So we gapped up 205 to 212. There's obviously a gap there, a $7 gap. So that's usually pretty positive that someone gapped up, came back and retouched it, and then gapped up again. In this case, it gapped down. So it's probably some not so great news that happened the other day. Let me make this bigger. You can see it. So we were here. We closed at 207.83. And the next day it opened, it gapped down. It opened at 189. So when it opened, people already were losing money there. So we'll get into gap ups and gap downs and breakouts and trend lines and support areas and resistance areas and what all that stuff. We'll get into all of it, touching on just a little bit of it tonight, just give you kind of a big picture. And then if we're just kind of drilling in here, if we look at the smaller time frame, say the hourly, that picture will tell us something too. We had this number here and we were down, 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 and then we found a bottom in here. And it looks like we double bottomed, or we have two bottoms. So I'll make this bigger. Right in here, bottom, and then another bottom where we hit the same price point. And then we kicked out. This is an hourly chart. So each one of these is an hour. We kicked out and we were in this bit of a channel. That range, remember I told you when a stock's in a range, we were kind of like this. For the most part like that. So we were in this range, couldn't get out of it like the Seattle Seahawks can't get through it. But guess what we're doing right here? We're getting through it after hours right here. So it might be, a nibble, a buy. You can see we closed at 187 Tesla for regular hours. After hours, we're at 188 and some change. So they're starting to buy it a little bit. So, I might nibble at it here, but but I don't know that it really looks good, because if I look at this hourly, and I want you to think about conceptually, hourly, like, oh yeah, it looks like we're breaking through this channel. But then what's the next bigger picture, the daily? Take a look at that, and what does that look like? Looks like we're in the downtrend. So if we're right in here, TJ about 188 and some change, right about there. And this is our day, because this is our day right here still. Well, where are we going? Like, if we run up a bit, we run up to 194, because then we might hit our head on this downtrend. So like $6 on your money from 188, like, what is that? It's not even like, so we want to do the math, right? So we do $6, say you bought it at 188. It's a 3% move. You're like, well, it might be worth it if I put 5 grand in it and I get 3% of my money is 150 bucks, you know. Not a lot of money, but I would be a seller as we came close to this line here. So that's what people have to decide. But then you say, well, what's the next time frame up? What if it breaks through that 194 area? We look at the weekly. What are we looking at on the weekly? Weekly, we've been in this downtrend, right? And let me make this bigger. If I really do the corner to the corner to the corner, still about the same. This is now weekly. If I ran up, tomorrow's Thursday. Let me erase this one. Tomorrow's Thursday. Yeah, and then Friday, if I still ran up, what am I running into? Possibly 199 on the high, where the resistance is. So maybe 4%, you know. And it may be worth the trade if you give it you know, some money. You know, but you got to give it some sort of money for it to make sense for you, because it's only like a 4% move, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so still kind of learning. So
yeah. So I mean, just remember, like, if you were going to do something, you always have to ask yourself, well, if I bought it at 188, well, what's the upside, right? If the Detroit Lions are going to go for it on 4th and 3 against the 49ers, what's the upside? Well, the upside is we can put this game away if we get this first down, just about put it away and keep the ball moving. What's the downside? The downside is you're going to turn the ball over, and if they score, there's going to be some mad people. And you didn't even come away with 3 points. You could have kicked the field goal. So when you're looking at stocks and you're drilling down into the minutia a little bit, the hourly, you're thinking, okay, there might be an opportunity here. We're starting to break through that. Well, if we break through that, where are we breaking through to? And I look backwards, the bigger picture. Oh, well, the weekly, we're still in this crazy downtrend. And if I break out from here, where am I breaking out to? Well, what's the most I'm probably going to get? This is a downtrend. This is saying, buddy, you're not Marshawn Lynch, you're not getting past us. And then if that is the case, until it actually gets broken, you're probably going to find resistance around that 199. And don't worry, you'll have to hear this a number of times, and it'll make complete sense to you. The more you hear it, you're like, yeah, I understand. You know, if I'm looking at something, well, what am I expecting the stock to get to? You know, is it blue skies? Nothing's going to stop it for a while, or am I going to have some roadblocks?
Right.
And this is clearly a bit of a roadblock, because we've had 5 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, 5 weeks of it going down. And this week it's kind of held up, because here was the low last week right there. It's kind of held up there. So it might not be a bad buy, only if I was going to give it some money. The problem is, you know, what if it rolls over? If I look at the monthly chart, the bigger picture now. Well, look at the bigger picture, I can see, what was resistance now becomes support. But guess what? It's going through that. So if I bought that right here, this 188, and I thought that, what's the upside? Weekly says it's about 198, 199. What's even the bigger picture say? The monthly says this thing is going through major support, where it was major resistance. Now it's been support. It's going through it. And then what possibly is the next stop? So if I buy those 188s over here, the reality is tomorrow is February. So February is going to start right here. And where do we spin? Where will we find support? And it might be down here at 156. So it may not be worth buying those 188s if you think you might actually be going to 156 in that range. And so then you have to ask yourself, you know, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze to buy those 188s? And you know, do I, instead of running the ball in, do I try to throw it in like Russell Wilson and get it tipped away and the Patriots win? You know, so you've got just kind of you'll see it just takes a little bit of time. You'll be able to think through the moving pieces like the matrix. I told a guy the other day, I said, learning to trade stocks initially, it'll be like, you know, you're playing high school football. We'll use a lot of football examples. And then you go from high school football to college football. You know, it's one thing to go from high school to a college football team that's maybe a JUCO team, where the size of the guys maybe and the skill set is not as good as going from high school football to the University of Georgia. Even though if you got on the team, that means you're probably pretty good anyway. But the speed of the game will be different. And then, you know, the speed of the game from going from college to the pros when you're dealing with grown-ass men is a little different. So when you're dealing with stocks, at the moment, the speed of the game is so different because you're not used to the game. You're used to playing tennis, and we're talking about playing football. You're like, oh, I don't know how to play football. And as you start to learn how to trade stocks and play football, you'll be able to slow the game down, kind of like the Matrix. Did you ever see the Matrix?
I saw it a long time ago.
You remember when the Mr. Anderson and those guys, those clones were shooting at him?
Mm-hmm.
And he held his hand out and stopped the bullets. And he took one of the bullets, and the bullets were suspended. And he looked at that. See, he figured out his programming. And then remember when he was standing beside Mr. Anderson, and he was, you know, Mr. Anderson was trying to give it to him, but the speed of it was like, and it was just really slow to him. And then eventually he kicks him. He kicks him back. Yeah. So the speed of the game is going to be crazy for you for a second. But I promise you, it'll just get slower and slower. I just got off of a call with a lady who I've been training for, I don't know, 6-7 months now. And every question I've been asking her lately, she has the answer for. She's got it. She's got it. She's starting to make money and stuff. And the speed of the game is slowing down for her. You know, but you may be faster than she is, you know, and you may have more free time than she does, you know, and you may be more committed than she is, you know, where the speed of the game will slow down for you, whatever, 90 days, 120, you know, whatever. It'll just slow down as soon as you make it slow down. And as soon as I help you slow it down. So we'll stop here. I just want to kind of give you just a mild taste.
Yeah.
Show you some things like, just so you see it, like today I was trading IGPK. One of the things I was trading, IGPK, has gone up a bunch. You see it went from 001 to almost 1, which is 10 times your money in 4 weeks. And so I bought a bunch more. I've been buying and selling, and I bought a bunch more at 7-1 today. I'll show you an hourly chart so you can see it, and then I'll show you something else, and then we'll get off. So when it pulled back, I'll show you why I bought it. So we're looking at this uptrend. Remember support, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we started to roll over, and we rolled over towards the support line. And you see over here what the price would be. Over here, it was 7. We went through it 6.9, 7, 7.1 right here. So we were hovering on that line, like, are we going to go through it? So you can see if I go to messages for today and see here. These are all trades I've done today right here. 957 IGPK right here, IGPK. Bought 7 3s, bought more 7 3s, bought more 7 3s, more 7 3s, more 7 3s. Bought 7 1s, 140,000, almost 141,000 shares at 7 1. Bought more 7 1. Then what I end up doing, those 7 1s and those 7 3s, guess what I did? Right. Oh, no, I bought more 7 3s. Hold on, I'm not there yet. So at the end of the day, bought some 7 4s, more 7 1s. Geez, I bought a lot today. End of the day, right here. See IGPK? Sold 1.5 million shares at 8-1. So I made 11% of my money from today because I bought those 7 1s and those 7 3s. See it?
Yes.
And then what I did, because I know I needed to be in it, I turned, the market closed at 4 for this particular stock. It doesn't trade after hours. What I did, I bought some 8s. That expired. I'm sorry. I bought some, yeah, right here. I bought some 8s. No, that's expired too. Where was it at? Bought some 8 4s, and then I bought, I guess it was only 8 4s at the end. Yeah, 8 4s at the end because I still wanted to be in it just in case it really ran tomorrow. So, but if it rolls over, I'll start the buying process all over again for it. And so it's a way to make money every single day. Every single day, brother. Every single day. You know, buying. That's all you see me buying and selling, buying and selling. This is all day. This is just today. Going all the way, you see the times right here. Going all the way back to 9:30 when I started because I was busy. I didn't do any pre-market buying or selling. When the market opened here, I sold TONR. If you look here, TONR, here's what it's been doing. Ran up, pulled back, ran up. I bought it at 8 yesterday, right here. And then I made 50% of my money when I sold it first thing in the morning at 9:30. So the buying and the selling happens all of the time, dude, all of the time. Because obviously, if I didn't make any money, why would I be selling this 3.3 million shares at 12 when the stock opened at, it opened at 14 and then the low was 11, but it only starts trading at 9:30. So if I sold it exactly at 9:30, look, 9:30 in 26 seconds, clearly I already had bought it lower, right? Because I'm selling it right at the open. I wanted to lock in that 50% gain. So and it'll be the same stuff you'll eventually be doing, but a lot of buying and selling, brother. Buying and selling. So anyway, we're 4 minutes out. I'm going to stop this recording and then I'm going to load it.